with the Klein Law Group. I'm excited to announce and wholeheartedly applaud NTIA's November 1st, 2023 adoption of the programmatic waiver of the letter of credit requirement in BEAD's $42.45 billion program to deploy broadband to underserved and unserved areas of the United States and territories. The waiver will allow many more entities to participate that would otherwise been left on the sideline. Overall, the waiver is beneficial to all ISPs, small and large, as it provides relief that was imposed by the huge financial burden associated with the letter of credit in the BEAD program. Now, by way of background, under the BEAD NOFO, BEAD applicants must submit a letter from a bank meeting certain eligibility requirements, committing to issue an irrevocable standby letter of credit in the required form to the applicant. Now, basically, the bank says that it will provide the letter of credit if the applicant meets all of the bank's requirements. So what's involved? Well, the BEAD award winners, the sub-grantees, when they're announced that they're going to get the award, and they have, right before they enter into an agreement with the state on the award, they must obtain an irrevocable standby letter of credit from a bank in a value of no less than 25% of the sub-award amount. That's the federal grant award. Banks providing the letter of credit require that they be cash collateralized or with a cash equivalent. So as a result, awardees have to lock away vast sums of capital for the full duration of the bill, likely several years. So a bank in these circumstances that provides the letters of credit must be FDIC insured and have a bank-wise safety rating of B- or higher. So this is on top of the match, the 25% match required of the grant. Now, unfortunately, the harsh reality of BEAD's letter of credit requirement on its own, and prior to NTIA's adoption of the waiver, was that it provided no realistic opportunities for most small, minority-owned, and women-owned ISPs to participate in the program. Now, since the requirement is entirely too onerous on such entities, and a huge barrier that would likely prevent their participation or otherwise prevent them from being awarded a BEAD grant, the letter of credit was also very problematic to mid-size and large ISPs, as the issue is basically relative. Say a company wins $1 billion in grants in 20 states. It would need to come up with $500 million in match and letter of credit. And these funds are typically just not sitting around idly. But mind you, getting NTIA to adopt its programmatic waiver that ensures robust participation in the BEAD program was no easy task. Over a year ago, we realized the letter of credit requirement under NTIA's middle mile program was entirely too daunting for one of my ISP clients, and I knew immediately that a similar requirement under the BEAD program was going to be hugely problematic as well. In the middle mile program, we're looking at a $60 million build, and between the letter of credit and the match, we had to come up with approximately $30 million before the first reimbursement, and that seemed ridiculous. We realized that this was a huge and possibly insurmountable challenge. You know, that's $30 million before the shovel hits the ground. And then you have to put money in to seek reimbursement. So that's even more of a cash outlay at the beginning. While certain others told us the letter of credit was not an issue and marginalized our concerns, we would not accept that. So we set upon a path to seek change and alternatives by forming a coalition of like-minded ISPs who are facing the brunt of the problem. Now, after getting Congressman Harris in September of 2022, who sent a letter to the Department of Commerce Secretary identifying problems with the letter of credit and asking NTIA to reconsider it, along with letter writing and participating on webinars, panels earlier this year, and educating the industry about the issues with the BEAD letter of credit requirement, and then ultimately, upon NTIA's announcement to allocate funding to the states on June 26, that big day, I realized it was time to put the pressure on. We questioned why we should be celebrating the huge White House and June 26 announcement of state funding allocations when the letter of credit in the BEAD program was designed to prevent most small, minority-owned, and women-owned businesses from participating in the program. After that, I organized a coalition, and through the collaborative effort that included Connect Humanity, John Windhausen from Shelby, Gigi Sohn from AAPB, among others, and great broadband leaders, a letter was prepared that was signed by nearly 300 stakeholders and sent to the Department of Commerce Secretary and NTIA, Alan Davidson, on September 6, 2023. As a result of this effort and follow-up efforts, on November 1st of this year, 2023, NTIA released its programmatic waiver. So what is in the programmatic waiver? Well, number one, it allowed credit unions to issue a letter of credit. So the NOFO requires subgrantees to obtain a letter of credit from a bank with a safety rating of WISE B- or greater. The waiver permits subgrantees to fulfill that requirement utilizing any United States credit union. Well, the credit unions are out there in the rural areas, and they're really well suited to be able to assist and participate in this program. But they need to be, national credit union that's insured in that form. It has to be a credit union with a safety rating, WISE safety rating B- or better. In addition, NTI now allows the use of performance bonds. Yes, performance bonds. So the waiver permits a subgrantee to provide a performance bond equal to 100% of the BEAD subaward amount in lieu of a letter of credit. So provided that the bond is issued by a company holding a certificate of authority that is acceptable surety on federal bonds as identified by the Treasury. So if you get a letter of credit, it's 25% of the grant. If you get a performance bond, it's the full amount of the grant. That you have to have the performance bond cover. Now, they went on. They said they allowed eligible entities to reduce the obligation upon completion of milestones. So the waiver allows an eligible entity, that's the state broadband office, for instance, to reduce the amount of the letter of credit obligation to below 25% or reduce the performance bond to below 100% over time upon the subgrantee meeting deployment milestones specified by the eligible entity, state broadband office. For example, upon demonstrating the satisfaction to the broadband office that has completed a build out of 40% of the locations to be served by the project, a subgrantee may obtain a new letter of credit or renew its existing letter of credit so that it's valued no less than 20% of the award amount. So it went down from 25% to 20% at hitting 40. Once you hit 60%, presumably, you could potentially reduce it to 15% of the award, 80% to potentially 10% of the award. Then once you hit 100%, the letter of credit may be terminated. Likewise, the same holds true with the performance bond. You could ratchet it down over time upon completion of the milestones. Then, in addition, NTIA allowed this fourth alternative, which is an initial alternative to the letter of credit and performance bond percentage. So the NOFO requires that the initial amount of the letter of credit, which is of the 25% of the subaward, or the initial amount of the performance bond be 100% of the under the option described above. But in this case, the waiver allows the initial amount of the letter of credit or the performance bond to be 10% of the subaward during the entire performance period. So we're going from 25% or 100%. We're ratcheting it down to 10% of the award amount for both the letter of credit and the performance bond during the entire performance period. But that has to be done when the eligible entity, the state broadband office, issues funding on a reimbursable basis, consistent with the requirements of the FCC's, of the NTIA's NOFO, and reimbursement is for periods no more than 6 months each. But it doesn't stop there. In adopting this programmatic waiver, NTIA expressed willingness to be flexible. It will continue and to monitor the situation and provide additional guidance as needed on this waiver. So as we find out more information about the implementation of this waiver, we may see more guidance from NTIA on this if there are other wrinkles that need to be resolved. And NTIA noted that states and territories are also free to request waivers for additional circumstances not covered by the programmatic waiver. So if you're a state and you have these particular reasons to ask for some other types of exemptions from the letter of credit or performance bond or how they're implemented, you could seek a waiver from NTIA. So this was an incredible team effort by the stakeholders to get NTIA to adopt the programmatic waiver, and which likely would never have occurred but for the September 6, 2023 letter. So thank you, NTIA, for listening and acting swiftly. So what are the next steps? Well, working with sureties, designing a performance bond that implements the performance bond alternatives NTIA adopted in its programmatic waiver. We're looking at something that resembles like option 4 is 10% of the award amount as a surety bond or a letter of credit. But for a surety bond, for that 10% of the award amount, we have to work with sureties to design what that contract would look like to capture this alternative that's been allowed by NTIA. Also, we're evaluating other areas of the BEAD NOFO to ensure the obligations do not prevent robust participation in the BEAD program. In addition, we're looking at proposed tax bill S341 that was sponsored by Senator Warner, so that the IIJA and ARPA funding for broadband deployment are not taxable income. We also are suggesting revisions to that bill to make the bill elective and flexible in application so that it includes support received under the FCC's RDOF and CAF programs. So again, you're getting this grant, and right now it's taxable. And we're looking to see if the tax bill that Senator Warner proposed could be enacted to avoid those taxes and allow you the flexibility to determine how you want to treat that. Now, separate from this, I'm working with a coalition of RDOF winners that seeks various forms of relief from the FCC to address huge cost increases that took place that could have never been anticipated when the 2020 RDOF auction took place. In that respect, we're looking for supplemental funding or release of funding that comes out in later years 7, 8, 9, and 10, possibly in earlier years, relief from the letter of credit requirements. There's a whole slew of issues relative to that, relative to the B- WISE credit rating and how the letter of credit goes up over time. And in addition, we're looking for amnesty from some obligations. So for closing thoughts, you should look at being engaged and join the effort if you face issues with any state or federal grant programs that are being implemented in your state. Just don't stand on the sidelines. If you see an issue, work with your state broadband office, work with your outside counsel. That's what I've done with my folks. And fortunately, we were successful in this front to get NTIA to allow alternatives to letter of credit requirement. So we need to ensure and have folks fully involved to ensure that these programs work and ensure there's robust participation. So I'm happy to discuss approaches to address any issues you face that you would like rectified. Just let me know. We'll figure out a path forward. So I look forward to seeing you at Metro Connect USA 2024 and providing more updates on these fronts. Take care until then. Bye-bye.